You're the one who's
A fighting fury, we're from Tigerland. In any weather you will see us with a grin, risking head and skin. If we're behind, then never mind, we'll fight and win, for we're from Tigerland. We never weak until the final siren's gone.
Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Wednesday night team selection night. I'm laughing again because I still haven't changed that last slide of Tigs, and he hates it. He was filthy at me before I hit play, and it cut him off as he was mid-anger at me.
Oh, you look like a homeless dude, that just wandered in front of a camera.
I reckon that was mid-COVID. I reckon that.
Oh, it was. My son just brought it for me. Just give context. My son brought it for me for my birthday, right? So
I like the hoodie. I think the hoodie. I like it.
I wore it. Yeah,
I like the hoodie. I'm a fan. I think I might even have one myself laying around somewhere, but I will one day get around to editing that. Although if anyone out there is handy at making intros, I'm happy for someone to help us out making a new one that's a bit more clean and crisp than my Canva effort. So feel free to shoot me a message if anyone's competent in that part, because I certainly am not. But we are here for team selection night, and it's going to be, there's going to be some interesting selections or potential selections based on some players who will be unavailable, some players potentially coming back in, and then a little bit of other stuff in between, which we'll get to shortly. But I'll pick your brain first a little bit on the Crows game. Obviously, it wasn't the best result for us on the weekend. Probably a little bit. It wasn't unexpected in a lot of ways. It's probably a fairly accurate reflection of where both teams are at. But what were some of your takeaways, and did you like some of the players and what they were doing, or what things did you want to see changed, and so on and so forth?
Look, it's what are we in, round 16, yeah?
That was 16. We're now 17.
Yeah, we're going into 17. It crystallised something for me. It's like I had an epiphany from the football gods that came down and said, Tigs, you're right. And look, it's a huge red flag, right? But in saying this, I'm backing Adam that he's doing this for a reason, and the coaches obviously know better than the general layperson. But people confuse game plan, i.e. structure, with method, ball movement or method, right? Now, what method is how we want to move the ball, right? Method is how we want to transition from attack to defense and vice versa. Structure is what we do once a player has the ball. So, for example, I'll give you an example on a kick out, right? Let's say we do that first kick out to the pocket. We should have players up the ground already setting up for plan A or plan B. So, i.e., if he beats his man, I'm running to this position, so I get the ball. And then the forwards move and the whole line start to shift. We don't do that. We just do not do it. The Crows did it, and it showed what the difference is when you've got a coaching that has a list, a coaching team that has a list, that's developed that list, that has a clear method of how they want to play. So if they want to play quick, or if they want to use tempo football, or in between the two, and have structure to back it up. That's why the Crows players look free all the time. Why? Our players are playing with method, right? So they're playing on instinct, it looks like, or loose instruction. So on the wing, they'll lose their shape. So they'll move in thinking that the ball's going to go here.
Yeah, I found... it's interesting because I did like a video analysis on like us trying to do an inboard kick, and we just couldn't execute it because the Crows players were instinctively running to those spots to defend the corridor. So they cut it off really well. But then when we had the ball, a lot of our guys, it kind of stood out that there was no real plan. Like about 4 of them were running to the boundary line to the same spot, and there was 1 or 2 here and there. Like it didn't seem very organized. I think that's just it's a symptom of where we're at a little bit. And like you said, the Crows have had that trained into them for near on 5 or 6 years now, and hopefully it's where we get to.
Yeah, look, there's that, but also too in a season, we've had 2 off seasons. Have some good experienced people on the list. They should have basic structure. What's concerning me is we have no basic structure when we don't have the ball. Now, it's hard for me because I obviously, with my brain injury and the sensitivity I have for noise and large crowds and shit, I haven't been to a game, which is killing me, right? It's absolutely killing me. But what I've been doing, one of the things my neuro is actually encouraging me to do is, and I've got fairly whiz-bang equipment, with all the replays, I slow all the games down. I minutely break. It's just a hobby I've got into, right? It keeps me engrossed and improves my focus. And you can see we have no system in front of the ball, and it's And you made that perfect example. I was actually going to highlight that, where we get sucked into the gravity of where the ball is. All of our younger kids just think it's junior footy and they just play for what they've learnt. Good teams, or even bog average teams, even North Melbourne, if you look at North Melbourne, they'll go, okay, I'm going to ignore my opponent because I know I need to be here because we're actually now trying to do an offensive movement. We don't do that. We don't have that, which is a shame because that was a DNA part of us. We had ingrained in us, okay, this is what you do when this happens. And this is, remember the thing they used to say to us, Richmond always feels like it has an extra person because if we lost one contest, the guy will automatically peel. The
next one comes up.
Would come up even before that contest was lost. Like they were drilled. They knew when they had to do it and create that ball pressure. And the reason why I'm worried about that is to instill in a playing group in 3 months, right? That's how long a preseason is. And they've got all these coaches and video. What basic structure? This is what you have to do. We don't seem to have focused on this off season. I'm just gone. That's what I think. Because if Adam comes out and goes, no, we've got structure. We do this, and they're not doing it. That means they're not listening to the coach, which I don't believe. They obviously are playing for him.
Yeah, but, definitely.
It's really, look, it's a real worry. I'm just hoping that they wanted to do method. I think
so. I remember hearing something about, it might not have even been Uze, it might have been a Fagan or someone else, but saying that how much difficulty they have as coaches to try and teach and implement new things in the short amount of time they've got, because there's so much stuff going on with all the shortening with AFLPA and the limitations around when players can come back and how long they can stay for. So I wouldn't be at all shocked if it's done on purpose to not overload them with a bunch of information they're not going to be able to retain. The problem is even if some of them are trying to do it, like if the experienced guys, let's say, are executing it because they've done it for 10 years, it only takes 1 or 2 players, and the new guys aren't going to be able to know what they're doing fully just yet. But as soon as it breaks down, the whole thing falls apart. Like team zones and structure, it's very, very reliant upon everyone on the ground being on the same page, isn't it? And that's why we were so good in our peak, because everyone was aligned and everyone knew what had to be done and when it had to be done. We'll get there. We'll get there, though.
Yeah, look, I hope so. Look, next year's going to be telling. Like I'm holding back my red flag waving till next year, because there'll be no excuses next year. If we don't have the bones of it, because if you remember Hardwick, it was his second off season, I believe, as we're leading into it, and he was open. He was pretty sure. We've got now the bones of a system of how we want to play. He didn't say method; he said system, which is game plan. So I want to see the bones of it. And kicking to the pocket and then kicking down the line is not a game plan. It's what you do when the oppo has the ball. How do you defend that ball? How do you turn that ball over? And where should you be around the ground when that happens? It's going to be interesting to see.
It will be. I've said the same thing. Like next year for me, you want to see those incremental improvements. You want to see the next layer added. But I fully back that they're doing what they're doing for a reason, and that it's just too hard to teach so many people something new in such a short period of time, have it executed at a high level. I think if we don't see the improvement next year, then I'll be a little bit more concerned. But I think you mentioned this before too, but this year's a little bit of like, they've got to find out what they've got and don't got to.
That's right. Yeah. Look, and I get all that. But what I'm saying is the only thing, what I meant by red flag, because everything that the chat's saying, I've been saying prior up to this week, right? But the concerning thing I have, you can still teach a semblance of organised structure behind the ball, particularly with the age and the experience profile we have in the back line, right? Now, I don't know what's happening there, because we, like Adam said at the start of the year, one thing you can guarantee, we do not want to be easy to play against. We want to be hard to play against. We are bog easy to. I love Richmond. I'm irrational when it comes to Richmond, right? I put my hand up, right? Like if I see anyone disrespect Richmond, like Twitter today, I saw a couple of knobs and I had to go in,
Yeah.
But I have to be honest, we are below bog average. With the talent ceiling we have, with the experience level we have, and if you judge it by lines, outside of the forward line, but in midfield and back line, we are actually quite experienced. Only got a sprinkling of kids. and they're bog average. Our midfield is woefully out of sync, right? We've spoken about that week after week after week. Our back line now, because of the years getting on, is starting to hemorrhage, right? Because now we're not applying pressure. Our forwards have never applied pressure. And look, I mentioned Newman. I still see nothing that convinces me that he's a forward line coach. That nothing, because he controls our forward. It's very vanilla. It's very, basic. And we're so easy for any operator to run the ball out of our forward half. But with that all said, we've got good kids. I can see.
We do.
Ross,
it's definitely a frustrating year. But
Ross did what I want him to do on the weekend.
How much better was he playing in the midfield? 9 clearances.
9 clearances. Yeah.
That's his spot.
And he only had 66% game time. So if you put him out, he was actually a number 1 midfielder if you average it with game time spent, because he played the least amount of game time. And he was involved in the play, which is the big thing about him. And he got your contests, right? But my concern is, and just to answer a question that was on chat about Hopper and Taranto, I've done my ends this week with me saying, okay, we're now doing the change with Taranto and Hopper. We're going to rotate them into the midfield. Pressure is playing wonderfully, right?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Yeah. We've got Ross. Looks like they give him another opportunity. I know people gave it to Sonzi, right? They literally gave it to Sonzi. Where is he? I marked him down. Where did I put you? Right. Yeah. So he had 12 to 83% game time. So I'm keeping him in. I'm still keeping him in, just solely for the fact. Please play him in the guts. I know people are going to scream at me. Oh, don't.
No, we're all saying throw him in the guts too. Like it seems a little bit pointless still leaving it half forward, but we seem reluctant to do it for whatever reason.
Yeah, give him a spot for a full game. So okay, we're going to give you 2 weeks, 3 weeks, full time. You're a full time mid. Show us.
Nothing to lose. Nothing to lose. So what do you make of Sam Banks' game? Sam Banks, 800 and something odd meters gained. He's had a stellar month.
Oh, Banks and Brown, when we recruited them, I always linked the two of them together. Straight away, you could see the 200 gamers just by how they were in their juniors, but how they spoke and how they carry themselves. Banks in particular was a captain in most of his years in the junior. I think now he's trusting his body. And I still think he's playing the position that's not – he's sort of been put in that position because that's what you put the younger kids in, because it's less physical. I reckon Banks, for me, I could see him being a winger. That's what I would prefer him as. One of those Lambert type, probably half forward that pushes into the midfield, has a license to go anywhere.
I did see a few people over the weekend say they'd like to see him as a midfielder long term, and it was honestly something I hadn't specifically considered. My only thing would be if we move him from there at whatever point, we need someone of equal or greater quality to replace him with, because we can't afford to lose the drive. So I don't know what the long-term vision is, but
we've got that. We've got Houghton. We've got Houghton sitting in the wings. Put Houghton in the Banks slot. Hugo Ralph-Smith. We've seen what you can produce. Give him a bit of a rest. I'm not writing Hugo off, but give him a bit of a spell in the VFL. Plot Banks in his role with a license to see what you can do, son. Let's have a look. These weeks now till the end of the year is what we should be doing. I'll tell you something, lads and ladies, if there's ladies watching. If we go in this week with the same setup that we've since round 1, I'll fair dinkum spew.
As in the centre bounce.
Yeah, so if we've got Taranto Hopper in the centre.
I think we'll start with those players in there.
Yeah, but
I've got no issue if we start with them there, but as the game gets on, we need to introduce more. Like I think we're sort of doing ourselves disservice only having 4 midfield rotations. Like it's almost a lot to ask of those guys. But I think we'll start with Presti, Taranto, Hopper, because that's what we, whether rightly or wrongly, but that's what we at the moment are deeming our number one midfield group. And then I'm hoping they introduce other players soon, ideally this week.
Yeah, if we think Hopper and Taranto is that A1 midfield group, we're in huge trouble.
But in a lot of ways they are, because the kids, as much as they're going to be good right now, they're not going to produce the same numbers that they're going to produce. So almost by default, they're the number one mids.
Yeah, I hear you. And it's a safe option because they're both good players. So I'm not disrespecting them. They're good players, but they're both got the same weaknesses.
They're good players. They're having good individual years, but just as a group, it's not doing as well.
And because they're the same type of players, so they've got the same type of weaknesses. So once you expose one weakness, you expose both of them. That's why we get smashed. Now, what I would prefer to have happen is, okay, leave one of them in there to back up the kids that we have around with Prestia, and put the other one in the forward line as a medium target. I want to start seeing, a midfield of Taranto, Prestia, Houghton, Laylaw. Then change it up with Ross, Houghton, Prestia, Laylaw, and then rotate that group. Keep on rotating it in. That's what we need to be doing right now. Forward line. You want to put Bolter in there, which I fucking loathe, but let's do it. Put Bolter in there, but then let's really change it up. Let's get Rioli starting to show some form. Get Rioli back in there, but give him. This is the thing I had a thought about. I had a chat with my mate before coming on. So if I'm talking really fast, I'm on new medication and it's good. It stops the stuttering, but it gets me really anxious. So it's not like I have to speed up. So I apologize.
All good.
I just had it before we started. It lasts about 30 minutes and then I start to get back to normal. What I'm trying to say is we need to start moving the whiteboard around aggressively.
Yeah, we do.
We might find something.
And that's my thing too. And like I said, I don't mind starting with the Prestia Taranto Hopper if that's what we deem at this moment in time our go-to. But in quarters, 2, 3, and 4, when if we're being honest with ourselves, this week there's gonna come a time where the game's not in our favor. At some point in time, we're going to be 30, 40, 50 points behind. It feels like we might be surprised, but that seems to be how it's going to go. That's when I would start mixing it up a bit and seeing what other kids can show. And look, they did publish the article a week or two ago saying they were going to start mixing it up a bit in the back half of the season. So fingers crossed we see it and we get to learn a bit more about what's happening for next year. But I'm with you. Like, I don't at all want them to put 3 kids in the midfield at once because that's just cruel to them. But yeah, you put in a Prestia, Taranto, and Lawler, and then swap. And just have at least one in there, get some exposure. I don't mind. I know we'll probably get to the Houghton part a little bit later, but I don't mind him off halfback. A few people did flag he could maybe do like a Dacos / Harry Sheasel role, getting the disposals of halfback and using his speed. I don't know what the defensive side of his game's like to execute that part of it. But I wouldn't be against seeing it. I do think he'll come in as a half forward initially, just based on where he's playing. But ultimately, in 2 or 3 years, he's going to be running around the midfield. But we'll bring up the teams. Oh, I can't see which one I've got here. Let's see which one's this. Your team, good. That's what I wanted to get. Okay. So we'll go through the lineups now for this week's predicted sides, folks. This is Tigs' prediction. So he's got out Lynch and Lafau, which we obviously knew, and you've got Mansell and Green out as well. And then coming in. You've got Taj, which I would love to see. I just don't think we will. Morris Jr., love it. Sam Lawler, love it. And Tom Sims.
Yeah. All right, I'll explain the outs. Look, I love Mansell. I'm his biggest defender, right? But he's playing. He's either tired, mentally exhausted. But his performance, what did he do on the weekend? He wasn't the worst we had. But, he's now a senior player and he played a full game, 79 minutes, and he got 7 disposals. That's 1 disposal every 11 minutes. That for me is just not good enough. And based on his block, his month of form, he's probably had 3 good quarters in that whole entire block. So it's time for him to have a bit of a spell. It's time for him to dominate in the VFL, show a bit of leadership in the VFL, have a bit of fun. That's the reason why I take a Mansell out. And it's probably the same thing with Green. I really want to love Steely. I do.
I'm with you. Yeah.
He reminds me of, who he reminds me of? Matty White. Right?
Yeah, okay.
He doesn't have Matty White's speed, but he reminds me of that type of character, right? Like, I want to love him. And I end up falling in love with Matty White, right? We traded him. But he's just not performing. He got 4 disposals for 85% game time.
Yeah.
It's just not good enough. And the poor kid cannot be finishing the games. He can, with a loss, we've done so well. You know what I mean? I've had fun today. So let's get the kid in the VFL, because the VFL is not a punishment. You're still going to get match pay. Go play, have fun, run around. And actually, and this is going to sound really bad, but I want him to be under Bachelor's tutelage, not Newman's. Right, so the more he can play under Morris and Batchelor, that's my personal opinion. So that's why I did the change for that. Now, I'm very big. If you show what I want to see and you do it dynamically for a full game, let's see how it translates to seniors. So that's why I've got Houghton and Rioli together. I actually picked them both as a team.
As
those
a pairing.
Right. Yeah, because those two on the weekend. Did you see their game?
I did. It was quite enjoyable to watch them link up through the middle of the ground a few times.
No disrespect to the Cracker brothers, right? But they had that vibe. It's like they looked for each other on the ground. And maybe it was an instinctive thing, but they really looked for each other. And what they did, they fed each other and made each other's game a lot better. So I want to see. And it was
starting from deep in defence too. Like they were actually working it out of the back line as a pair as well. It was honestly exciting to watch.
And I'd love for them to be on either forward pocket, right? Taj, for me, he's got the smarts and the IQ to be more of a disciplined defender and knowing when to run up to support the mids, and his marking's elite for his size. Let's not discount that. He is, for a contested mark.
100%. And his IQ. And the other thing you mentioned there too, I noticed as well, that if you watch the VFL games carefully, you can see how good his anticipation is of when to run forward to the ball when we're about to turn it over. Like he just already, I know the Bullants aren't good people. I get all that, but he can still only practice it against the team he's playing against. He did it against the Bulldogs really well too, who was second too as well.
Yeah, that's right.
But his reading of the game and anticipation and knowing when to pull the trigger and run. And I think Jake Batchelor might have even highlighted it in his report this week. It's a standout feature. It's really, really good. It's really good. And look, Seb, I do think the club have said that Houghton will probably play VFL. This is just what we would like to see happen.
This is what I would like to see. Yeah, this is what I'd like to see. It can't get any worse than what it is now. I see. No. I remember I mentioned it last week. I always have that quote from Pendles. You get 10 for every game you're playing in seniors, it's worth 10 VFL games in development. So that's why it's okay. Let's give it. He deserved it. Let's give him a go, and hopefully they're brave enough to do so. What I love about, last thing on Taj, which if you haven't seen him in the VFL till you see him in the seniors, please watch him because he does something that's unique. It's very rare to see it. When he does that contested mark, his ability, or any mark, any contest he gets in, he does what Knights used to do. Cochin did it. He does the sidestep. Pendles does it. He does that instinctive straight away before anyone moves as he moves himself out of traffic, and that opens him up to actually make the play. And people have to follow him.
Creates separation quickly.
It's magical. You can tell he's just I get giddy, so I better stop.
I was the same last week, and that's like in the Bulldog game when he got that past the Lafau inside 50 when he cut across and took that mark. He was sidestepping straight away and getting it in. So and we've been talking about this for almost years, that we desperately need to move the ball quicker when we've got it that far out from goal. And hopefully he'll lead the charge for us on that front, because it certainly gives your players up forward some more hope.
Now, I've got Sims in because the poor kid, we recruited him he needs to play a full game as a forward. So I just figured we're coming up against the team that we've got no hope against in the way that we're playing with the poor system we have. But you know what? He's a tall lad. He's huge. He's man-sized. Let's just play him deep in the square. Let's just simplify it. Let's give our bad kickers in the midfield, if we are going to go Taranto and Hopper, that are big, deep, long kicks. Give them a target and allow Campbell and allow our smalls to be predictable. Okay, this is where the ball's going to drop, and it's going to drop deep, so they know where to set up. Let's do that. So I was looking at the leads, and Taylor Young was one I was looking at bringing in as a reward because I rate him as a stopper. But I thought, well, look, Lynch and Folau didn't have a chance to go on because it basically died on the weekend. Let's try Bolter and Sims. Two completely tall forwards. One's mobile and athletic, and one can take a grab. He's big, he's bulky, and hopefully we can generate a few free kicks.
I like it. From someone else, from a backup ruck perspective, would you have Sims do it, or would you have Bolter, or share between the two?
Yeah. Look, I personally, I'm of the mindset you don't do a Ferrari. You don't take a Ferrari into a rally, right? And regardless of Bolter's year and all the issues, it's like Bolter is a Ferrari. He's a rare talent. So I would never want to see him playing ruck, right? And you just brought it up. So having, I keep on mispronouncing his name.
Lefou.
Ruck off a knee on the weekend.
Yeah.
I someone explained that to me because that didn't make no sense to me. Made zero.
He's done it often. I mean, the calf was unrelated to the knee, so I think.
I get it. But why would you risk it? Why would you?
Yeah, I suppose we're trying to be a bit more nimble and agile around the ground. And like, funnily enough, I know what you said about Bolter, but I actually think he plays his best football when he's a bit more instinctive and chaotic, following the footy around. I think he struggles a bit more when there's structure.
Yeah, look, and that's true. And he's got that 70-metre kick. He can kick over a line if he gets the ball. Yeah, so look, there's merit on both. Look, it gives us flexibility. We've got both of those forwards can do that. So we can just share the load a little bit with Nang. But, it's an opportunity for Blight and Miller to be our key defenders. And then you've got your Broad, Vlosten, you've got Banks and Brown to do their thing. And I reckon that will keep that back line stable. So that's the reason why...
In your example as well, if for whatever reason we had to flick something around, that you could change Blight and Bolter around too if you wanted to try something different, or if Blight was getting soundly beat, for example. So, yeah, to your point, there's a bit of flexibility amongst certain positions, which is always handy. And you've got Sam Lawler in too, which is always handy.
Look, he's an immediate in. We're screaming out for a medium forward, right? We're screaming for it.
And somebody can kick.
Yeah, we're screaming for a medium forward, and that's smart. I would like to get him in the midfield, but in spurts, he hasn't got the tank. And like I've been wanting to say this all year. When he's been in the mid, his natural talent, he's done a few really good things, particularly with his hands, right? If the ball's sort of gravitated towards him, he's done those things. But he hasn't got the tank to play mid yet. He needs another full pre-season because he's only had one. And before that, as a junior, never did a pre-season. So I want him to stay as a permanent forward this year till we get next season into him and get him some legs in. That's why, for me, we just need to get some naturally smart footballers that will compensate for the lack of direction they're getting in the forward line. Because that's what I truly believe. Yeah, that's happening at the moment.
I reckon Lawler will definitely spend majority time forward for the remaining games of the season, but I do think they will have spurts of midfield presence. I think they just have to for his development. But I mean, the fact that kid's never had a full footy pre-season, he's in good nick. And they're just going to take their time, I suppose. But in this week in particular, I do think we need a bit more, marking power and direction up forward. So maybe he will spend a bit more time there potentially. But it's just good to have him back nonetheless. It's just good to have him back.
Well, that's what I'm trying to exploit, particularly with Sims, who's over, nearly 200 centimetres. He's a man mountain. And then you've got Bolter, who's really tall. They're going to struggle to defend those two large lads, right? And if we can create the pressure to lock down their medium backs, we might be in for a scoring chance. We might be in a scoring chance.
I sort of agree that I think we'll be a bit less predictable with Lynch out, but it only works if we're smart enough to lower our eyes and if the three forwards lead to different areas. If they all run to the same spot, we'll be in the same predicament we were last time, but maybe with less physical presence. But if they kind of spread themselves out and have different leading lanes and leading patterns, it could make things interesting because, like Sims can be an awkward matchup at someone at his height. So it'll be interesting to see what we do there. I went a little bit similar to you in a lot of the changes. I only went 3 though. So I've got Lynch out, Lefau out, obvious reasons. I went Green out as well for the reasons you mentioned earlier. Like the 4 disposals, it's a body of work, but not in a good way for him, unfortunately. It's kind of led to this. Lawler in. I've gone Tyler Young. Now, I've got him listed at full forward, but I would be equally as comfortable if it meant that Blight was up there instead or whoever it might be. And before people jump at me, Tyler Young isn't a permanent full forward in the making. This is literally a makeshift job. He kicked 2 goals on the weekend, and they were technically and clinically very, very sound kicks, might I add. But he can compete. He's got an experienced body, can take marks. Worst case, he can spoil really well and bring it to ground. So that's the worst option. And it's, again, similar to yours, there's the flexibility to interchange with a few other players. And I've gone Jaden Short as well. Now, if we didn't lose the two key forwards, I wouldn't have picked Jaden Short. I would have said do VFL. My only reasoning for picking Jaden Short is because we've lost some experience. And I think I always have thought that I've always thought our half forward and full forward line is very inexperienced anyway. When it's just Lynch up there, it's probably even less experienced now. I would play Shorty at half forward just to add a touch of experience and some leadership out there. And I think he can add a bit of a weapon for us, kicking the ball 65, 70 metres. It's definitely not to take Sam Banks' role or Tom Brown's role. He's playing half forward, wing, or nothing. I wouldn't be shocked if he ultimately does play VFL first, but I'm just thinking about the lack of experience. Like you've got Alga, Mansell, who's played probably the most games out of that lot. Bolter's not really experienced as a forward, neither is Young, neither is Short, to be honest, but I just think he might add a flavour of experience up there that could be helpful.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. Look, I looked at Tyler. I wanted to get him in, but I just thought, you know what, for me, the only knock on I had him as a forward, he's not mobile. He's he's not super tall. Like if they, so I thought, all right, that's why I went Sims over him. Even though for the moment now, Tyler would actually perform better.
So
I would think, because obviously a bit more.
Yeah. So obviously, the reason why I didn't pick Sims or Bauer is because they're simply not performing better than him in the VFL at any metric. I know they're forwards who play, but you've got to remember we're playing against like premiership level defenders, and if these guys can't make a contest, we are going to get smashed. We might get smashed anyway, but I just think out of that group of players, Tyler Young, I think, is better equipped to handle bringing the ball to ground because he's actually an elite spoiler of the ball and he can obviously mark it as well. I just think he'll create more of a contest than what Sims and Bauer can at this moment of time.
I've got a question for you.
I just don't think that, they are going to do too much damage as the main forward anyway. That's the problem.
And I've got a question for the audience too. This is what I've noticed, which is worrying me too. When we're getting smashed, right? When it was happening at the beginning of the year, like if we lose a quarter or two, we would try to keep this method of how we want to play. We wouldn't flood. Mate, yesterday, on the weekend, we flooded the hell out of the game and we still got split open. The week before against the Dogs, from half of the last year, we flooded. I'm starting to notice, and that for me is a sign of, oh shit, nothing's working, just put bodies behind the ball. And when you put bodies behind the ball with no structure or game plan, they're useless, right? So that's why it just doesn't seem to help. Have you noticed that yourself, or is it just me having a delusion?
They might have done, but if they did that last week, I think it would have been out of just genuine fear of how much their big forwards were taking a hold of the game with Phil Thorpe, Walker, and Fogarty. We just, in the end, didn't have enough answers, did we? But by doing that, you lose your shape, you lose your structure. If you do get a quick turnover, you look up and all you've got is opposition players to kick at, and you're sort of running around in circles, aren't you? So you're not helping yourself out when it comes to transitioning the ball back down the ground. But it's all a big learning. I suppose the other concern, and it was to be expected, is that our spirit and morale is getting broken pretty early as well now. And that's just, it's an unfortunate byproduct of young players in a year that's not going so well. But they're just got to keep sticking at it. And like I said, though, even though that Crows loss was shit, even though the Bulldogs loss was shit, and the Sydney game was shit as well, I do take, good feeling out of the fact that those teams have beaten other teams by more than they've beaten us. So it means we're not totally rolling over. I know they've taken the foot off the pedal, but
Adam does that, and it infuriates me. It's
true. Saying, I would rather not be the team that they're smashing by the most than not.
All right, so it's saying. So you're happy that you didn't get shot in the head? You just got stabbed in the guts. And just about
if I had to pick one.
Look, for me, a loss is a loss. Now, there's a loss that you're still playing your way, and even though you get the scoreboard, that you're sticking. See, when we were losing by round 12, I was happy as a pig and shit. Why? Because we were still trying to play our way. Even though we're losing, we were sticking to how we wanted to play. I've seen the last 3 weeks, we've gone completely, either the whole floor's fallen out, or we look like our last year. We look like last year. Now we look like 2024.
The other reason why we may look like that, though, is we've just played 3rd, 6th, and last year's game.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Worse again. What will be interesting, I think the real measurement, and and how we're really traveling will be when we come up against your Essendons, your West Coast, your Kangaroos, to see if we're still matching it with the teams that are kind of near us, because it was to be expected that these teams that are good are going to slice us. Like, if they didn't do that, they would be fuming with themselves in a lot of ways. But if we don't, if we fall away badly in a similar manner against, your Essendons, West Coast and Kangaroos, then it's like, okay, something has changed or something is different, because we need to be really competitive against those sides, don't we? Those teams that are sort of around our area.
Yeah. And I still can't believe the draw we have compared to Adelaide.
Is ours more difficult?
Ours at the start of the year, they rated the easiest, ours. But that's this block of games that we've had, 4, 5, 6 in a row.
It's a tough block of games, right?
Yeah. Adelaide hasn't had a block all in a row. They've had them spread out. They might play harder opponents, but they're all broken up with a couple of easy games and a hard one. It is just, that leads me into Lynch. Can that lead us into Lynch? Can we have a bit of a chat about Lynch?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, it's a confirmed AFL bias that people said I had tinfoil hat. The Richmond bias that they have. Oh, mate, they have it. They have it. It's because of who's running the show. Look, I want to be for the record. I didn't say anything on Twitter. Too many, not enough characters. But this is my official thing. If you're interested, poor on Lynch. He let the team down. He let himself down. He was ill-disciplined. As a leader, not good enough, right? And I love Lynch, but that's the truth. If you're feeling frustrated, get yourself, you're old enough, you're experienced enough to put your hand up and say, bench me. He didn't do that. And he's recognised that. It's a good on him. He's taking accountability to do the swing. I want to be categorical on that. I'm not saying, now, but how the AFL has adjudicated this has really upset me, right? For two-part reasons. They made it up to grade at severe, right? And Lynch, I think, even missed him. It clipped him or just missed him. So the potential to cause injury. It was more a slap than a hit. But anyway, I'm not going to pull thing. The guy's fallen, laughed, got up and played the rest of the game and there's no concussion, right? So there's no damage done. So he's got 5 weeks for it. Okay, I'd cop that. But then explain to me when the vision today clearly shows his opponent turns around and throws a right-handed fist into Lynch's face.
Thankfully missed.
Just missed.
I know.
And he didn't throw one. He didn't follow it up with the left. Right? He threw two. He wanted to punch the shit out of him because he was angry. Right? That was not even looked at. Now, if you remember the Wakelands in that grand final when they went ping pong.
Lynch and Wakeland.
Lynch and Wakeland. And one of them got suspended, but the other one would have got suspended too because they both were throwing punches. How come they can say that's what they will do then? But in this case, completely ignore the person who's thrown 2 haymakers at Lynch.
Yeah, I didn't see that footage until today. I'm like, wow. And I think Lynch was probably having to dig back straight after that right was thrown by Butts. Yeah. But it got me stumped how that wasn't viewed. So the reason people are saying that it's because Lynch's one did make contact of some description. They're not saying that it hit him flush or anything, but that it made some contact. So it's deemed a strike. I'm like, but they both still have the same potential to cause serious harm.
And they went in with the word potential.
And both players are very lucky that neither of them connected because what Lynch done was dumb as anything and should never have happened. But to see them Butts do the same thing and his didn't connect either, thankfully. Both, I don't know how they both aren't in the same category. And then Tex Walker hits Hugo Ralston in the back of the head.
In front of the umpire, number 7. Whoever you are,
Hugo just jogs on. But
the AFL, they keep on shitting where I eat, right? They keep on doing it. They keep on shitting where I eat. They're losing. They've lost a lot of good faith. Like, Stan Rule. They're so lucky. Our Australian culture is so tribal, right? We're unique, I think, in that. Very similar to the Spanish. I'm Spanish Australian, but very similar to Spanish, how whole cities unite behind their team, and that's their second kid, right? Yeah. We do that. We do that with our clubs, right? So Americans don't do it with NFL, because it's all NBLs or franchise, but we still have that. That's the only reason why I think the AFL still makes a profit. Because if I could do this, I can't. I'd stop watching AFL as protest. Fuck you. You're not getting my money. That's it. Done. Till you make changes. And we did that in maths. Some of them haven't, but it will never happen. But
no,
I just, it makes me sick.
It was what sort of bugged me a little bit is everyone could tell, and like Grant Thomas pointed out, I think might be Mick Malthouse, might be another one, that it was essentially reverse engineered. Like they said, the 5 weeks, it was never going to be anything else. What actually really threw me a little bit, and I'm glad someone else put it on Twitter. So Richmond went in with the defense in regards to, they highlighted that Tom Lynch can't make a clenched fist because of whatever issues he's got.
Like a middle finger or whatever is fused.
So if this is a live, hearing, how did the AFL already have an image to counteract that point on hand before hearing that point made? That kind of blew my mind that they had an image showing that it was a closed fist to counterpoint that argument before the argument was even made. Quite
the
astonishing.
most disappointing thing for me, it proves the Australian football media is all on the take with the AFL. Because if you notice something, they all went the 5-week narrative. Most of the shows, 5 weeks. Well,
the AFL come out and said that's what they're wanting is 5.
Yeah, so they've gone, but I 100% believe that they've told them, hey, support us at the 5 weeks. And they've gone off on jump. And they've all gone, everyone.
Possibly.
Supported it.
Look,
it's just.
And then ultimately, at the end of the day, Lynch shouldn't have done what he done. Like you don't put yourself. Yeah, he's got to be better, doesn't he? But it's still the point. The frustrations. Yeah, and I think opposition supporters get confused with Richmond supporters' views on this. Yeah. I don't really see many people saying that Lynch shouldn't have got weeks. I think we all unanimously agree that it was dumb, stupid, shouldn't have done it, and definitely should have got weeks. What the frustration is how the identical incident for the other team doesn't even get cited. It's like, well, what's happening?
Yeah, that's the thing.
How do we have some different outcomes?
And the thing is, for me, it's a blessing in disguise. We get to actually change up this non-working forward line, and maybe we'll find something like when we found out. I want to say Falau, but it's Lafau. Lafau. Yeah, sorry. One of our great listeners mentioned how I used to say shy instead of shay. So this is another one, Lafau. Lafau. But we found Lafau when we had injuries, right?
Yeah.
So we might find we might find another Lafau, and it's good. You've got 5 weeks or so, 7 weeks to really see if we can find something. So for me, I'm not upset with it. It's just a shame. It's a double standard. I hate that. It
gives more chance to other players. It's just a shame that the first week we have to try and counter it is against a pretty good side with a strong team. What will be interesting is how we go without those two against an Essendon, a Kangaroos, a West Coast, and how we try and navigate it that way, because we might be able to pull a few more strings. A few people have asked, even on my YouTube video as well, but this comment here, Oliver Hayes-Brown, who had a ripper game in the VFL last week, granted the guy he was against wasn't as big or as good. I'm okay, whether it's this week or another week. I would like to see him have a crack at AFL level at some kind, just to give him a bit of a reward for effort for the year. We can't lose from it, right? Like it's
no.
I didn't. Yeah, is it this week? I don't know, but I'd like to see him at some point.
I'm happy. Look, call me crazy, but this year is about development, right? This year is all about. So if you got the list together and there's 4 weeks left of the year. And, we've got sore bodies. You've got Taranto would be sore. Hopper would be sore. I cannot understand because, they might not buy in. Or if you sat them down and said, you know what, we're going to run the next 4 weeks with the potentials, not the probables, but the potentials as the majority of the side. Hopper, you've been great this year. Go to Hawaii, mate. Enjoy the rest of it. Have an early preseason. You deserve it. Taranto, you've carried us on your back. Go enjoy, call your wife. Go somewhere 4 weeks early, and just going with a smattering of leaders, and just flood it with kids just for that 3 week, 4 week period, and go with the mindset. You know what? We're probably going to get done by 80 points. Who cares? This is how I want you to move the ball. This is how I want you to set up. Do like a little mini and see how they go. Get the supporters on board. I reckon all the supporters will be wrapped to see it.
I wouldn't be.
You know what I mean?
Because it's a bit of exposure. I mean, I guess the counter argument is, are we exposing them to getting unfairly beaten up upon? Maybe.
Look, 3 weeks of it, then they get a whole off season. They're not. It's not going to damage them physically or mentally.
I wouldn't mind seeing a few more kids out there.
But we need to turn this list over. We need to. We need to really find out what we've got. Yeah, we
And
really
we've
got to
also got
find
the
out.
2 picks this year in the draft, which will be interesting. One, if we have the 2 picks or if they get traded elsewhere. And 2, that if we do have the picks, but adding in, two early draftees plus hopefully Louis Callaway. So that's three new players in, and you get another preseason into the crop of 2024. We've got Josh Gibcus coming back for his first VFL game this weekend, which is amazing.
I was going to put him in the
much
seniors because I would have loved to put him in the seniors, but I thought, no, I don't want to put the pressure on the kid. Yeah.
No, I'm very much in the camp that if he shows promise at VFL level over the next 2 games, you're playing AFL. Once he's got the fitness, ticks all the boxes, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I think it's actually important for his mental health to play an AFL game or 2 if form and fitness permits. But I'm super pumped for him. Like, it's a long, long journey given the 2 major operations to that side of his leg. I'm pumped for him. I'm sure he's jumping out of his skin. I'm guessing he got through today's training session. That's all he had to tick off. But then he's still got Smiley as well, who's obviously was a bit crook, and he's going to get back into his fitness regime. We hopefully see him in a few weeks as well.
I don't want to see him this year. I don't want to see, let him really get his body right, get him the whole full season, off season, maybe a couple of VFL games. And then I've got something really to look forward to. I've got to look forward to a lot of things, but he's going to be a player. He's going to be a player. But funny enough, I've got a feeling he's going to perform in, those players that only really perform in the seniors, but are sort of average, they cruise in the VFL. Yeah. I have a feeling he's going to be one of those, just based on, I don't just call it a gut feel. But yeah, no. In relation, Jones, mate, what you got to eat is oats with a dash of cinnamon. And if you really want to go nuts, put a bit of saffron. If you really want that, it's a stick, right? That's what works for me.
Jesus. I didn't word you up for this off air, but has there been any updates on any Reed front or any other trade names?
Look, to be honest, since the last show, I've you guys are family, so I'll be honest, I've changed my medication for this thing. So it's been more getting used to the side effects, and that's it really. So I haven't really dug in any information. But yeah, I'm starting. I've actually gone. I've gained weight. It's made me fat. Not fat, but like I haven't been able to go to the gym because of the nausea component of it. But yeah, so that's made me put on. My face has gotten a little bit fatter, and but yeah, I'll get back to normal, and then I'll start digging it up again. Yeah, there's
definitely no rush. I mean, there's still plenty to play out. There's still the Reed stuff playing out. We may be offering Lynch another year.
Lynch is another year. Lynch, I was hoping this would happen, but I'm 99.99% convinced he's playing again. We need him to.
I think we need him to as well. We'll have to see what plays out over the next coming weeks. So that'll be a. Hang on, I'll answer this question. After this week, Noah Bolt will be unavailable. Yeah. So this week, a few people have asked this question on different comments about Noah Bolt being able to play this week against Geelong. So technically speaking, he should be okay, because by the time the game finishes, that should be around 2.5 to 3 hours to get home, which should be okay.
Isn't it? Or is that
it's in Geelong. It's in Geelong. So
at the shithole. Oh no.
It should be okay, but a lot of other people have then also said it can be an absolute nightmare trying to get out of the ground post game. Like, I don't know what it's like traffic wise up there.
That's
after
if his
a game.
car doesn't get near. That's if his car doesn't get near, because Geelong. There's Frankston, and then there's Frankston, and then there's Geelong, right below.
Moe by the sea, as CV would call it.
Oh, Geelong! What a shit! Sorry, people from Geelong that are Tiger fans, but yeah, no.
Well, Groc's out there.
Yeah, I know Groc.
He can Groc.
But even he knows that, poor bloke. He's just there because he was born, his family and stuff. Well, I respect that. He's fighting a fight, but he's surrounded by an ocean of shit, and he knows it, poor guy.
He does. So, look, I expect that he will play, but then, like Dragon Cave says, the traffic is hectic after a game. So, look, I guess there's an element of risk attached to it.
Are we, after what we're saying, does it really matter?
If he plays?
I'm sort of starting to, if we win, it doesn't matter if we win, if he plays.
It doesn't matter if we don't win, but it's more so we don't want him to break curfew and get obviously in further trouble.
So, like I would probably not play him. You know what? Take the rest of the year off. Let's focus on this. Get training, good solid block of training in before the off season, and just put Taylor Young in his spot. I don't know. We've got to start rotating this list. See what our kids do. Give them a good chunk of games to audition for next year, particularly the ones that are out of contract. which there are a lot of. And we don't seem to be proactive to do it. And it's a shame because that's on match committee, mate. There's no ifs or buts. You can make any excuse. That's on match committee. So, because I'm petrified that next year we're going to cut a few and they're going to go to another club and we're going to look back and go, what did we do?
I'm scared of that.
What did we do? Yeah.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens tomorrow then. Because I agree, RFC Centre, that it shouldn't take that long to get home, but there's a lot of uncontrollable factors that could play a part that maybe it's not worth the risk. It just depends on how safe you want to play it, I suppose.
It was Geelong. Yeah, his
tires. Helicopter confirmed. Yeah, let's get him a helicopter. Yeah. Jane, I haven't got any other Cody Walker updates other than the one we had the other day. It's been thoroughly entertaining to see a couple of Carlton supporters shit their pants over it, thinking that I'm trolling when I'm genuinely not, especially from where it come from. And again, it's not done and dusted to us, but it's definitely not done and dusted to Carlton either. And I was even talking to a Blue supporter at work about it today. And even he said, why on earth would he pick us? Why? We've got nothing going for us. You're in a far better spot. And that was from a Carlton supporter. So whilst the father-son ties do probably are strong and might reign supreme, there's still life left. And the club think and believe it too. So we'll keep fighting a good fight. Don't worry about that.
The silver lining of all this, how good is it now that it feels like 2016, 15, 14, 13, when Oppos knew we were building, but we were still relatively unperforming. And then they're throwing the shit at us. They're throwing the shit. They're celebrating Lynch like Lynch is some form of assassin that brutalizes young children and drinks their blood. That's at the foaming, levels of like he's a thug. He's like, he's chopper. He's chopper on the footy field when he's not. And they
also forget they have Tom Stewart, who sniped Prestia in their team.
But you could smell the fear.
It is amusing.
Adelaide supporter, chirping on about, and they haven't played finals in 8 years and haven't done shit for 27. You can smell. It's a hint of, the feces smell because they've shit their pants, or you can smell it because they see the list we've got. Right?
It's it just comes back to just being we're somehow still rent free in a lot lot of people's heads. We've really torched a lot of people supporters. From 2017 to 2019, 2020. We have upset a lot of people along the journey as a football club, and I'm all here for it.
I get flooded. My DMs get flooded, with the 4-letter word starting with C and ending with T. It's just one word. It happens every time I get about 8 or 9. I don't block them. 8 or 9 just come out. I have a bit of a laugh, but it's funny.
Paulie D, I hope you're right. It'd be amazing. Look, I'm trying not to be Richmond biased when I say this. But if you were wanting what was best for your kid and were legitimately looking at the options of both clubs, we're going to be in a better spot by the time he starts playing than what they will be. Anyway,
100%. Look,
Blues fans are going to disagree, and that's okay.
Around in 3 years. In 3 off seasons, we'll be playing consistent finals. The proviso that our coaching group is the right coaching group. Right?
Yeah, we've got to develop the rest of that plan and method and all that kind of stuff.
Because we don't know yet. We don't know yet. I'm pretty well locked on the Carousella. You can lock him away. I'm locked on the others, but there's a few there that we've got to make that decision on. One thing I will say, they cannot re-sign Newsday halfway through next year. They can't do it. They're going to let the year play out, regardless of the heat and verbals and whatever you want to. Do not re-sign him till we show not just method but system. And then I'll back him in 100%. Like Hardwick, people abusing me when they'll go, Hardwick, shit. And I'll go, no, because he's trying to get us to play his way. And I backed him on the boards, and I copped it. But I backed him, and he ended up turning it around. Even in 2016 is when I started to waver, right? I started to waver. And the last game I had...
Well, you weren't alone. You weren't alone. A lot of us were wavering at that point.
And the last game I posted, I love you, Hardwick. You've gotten us in the 3 finals that... I haven't seen for years. Even though we've lost, I'll never forget you for that. But fuck me, mate, leave. I'll never forget that post. But I think I was shattered, right? I was shattered. I was because we had a really good young core, but he turned it around. I was happy to eat humble pie, and I put my hand up and I admit it. I want that for Adam. I want that for Adam so bad. For sure. I want it so bad because he's a good development coach. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Anyway,
before we go, let's get some final tips, including margin. Chuck him into chat as well. Cameron's gone early with Tigers by 5.
Margin.
You would love to
I
upset.
love you.
Is it meant to be? Is there any chance it's going to have torrential rain down there that might give us half a chance here? It would be highly entertaining if we were to pull off a win.
Yeah. Torrential rain at Geelong will get done by more. I think they'll just.
You reckon? You reckon that would help them?
No,
okay.
Yeah, I think looking at Taranto's game, I'll just close my window, but he was down on the weekend from his normal productive self. Hopper was heavy because it's easy to shut our midfield down. Just crunch him and Hopper or pressure, one or both, and we don't have that. Ross finally stood up and took some of that slack. Can he do it again? That's what's going to hinge. Can we get Ross? Why not put Campbell in the midfield? Give Seth a bit of a run, you know?
I agree. Confidence player. Get his hands on the footy.
Yeah, get him in there. Mate, I like what I saw. A couple of bounces. Hugo try to get himself in there. It's to try to never help, but I was thinking that ballistic. I was thinking that, look, I don't think we'll get overdone by over 100. If I had to be a betting man, I will think I see a 10-goal loss easily.
If we can keep it, if we can keep it under 100, that would be nice. Because people have already started commenting about it's got the Melbourne 2012 vibe written all over it.
It has. I was at that game.
That got ugly.
Game.
Oh,
and you kind of
hope that the players show a bit of resolve and grit because they would be hearing all this external noise. I know players and that say they don't, but surely they would hear some of what was being said. And there's a bit of freedom we can play with. I guess there's zero expectation whatsoever. So who knows what we'll see? It's going to be quite fascinating.
That's a good question,
Jezza
Leo.
by 80.
Leo. Yeah,
he's on Jezza this one.
That's why I think we just have Bolter on Jezza. He's the only one I think that can match up on him pretty well. He's got the athleticism to run with him. He's got the height to contain his marking. And we just go, okay, Bolter, that's all you concentrate on, mate, is Jezza. Just run around with him. And that's what we do. We try to get our defenders to play through Jezza to release the ball, to try to make him more hyper accountable that way. But who knows what we'll do? No
idea, Nathaniel, where our goals will come from. That is a genuine concern. I would be happy to kick a goal a quarter. I don't know. I mean,
we'll probably score 11 rush behinds.
Yeah.
That's what it'll be, 11 rush behinds.
The hope is that without Lynch, that we become less predictable, but it only works, like we said before, if the other forwards playing lead to different spots and don't all crowd each other. If we can lower our eyes and hit targets, we might generate some scores because we won't be as predictable as just dropping it on someone's head for 4 quarters.
Yeah.
But if we try and still play that same way with less experienced players, it won't end well. And it's a great question. I don't know the answer, but we're all going to find out in a couple of days. It's going to be very interesting. And this is a good point. Yeah. And I honestly, hand on heart, would not be against if we just kick the ball along the ground inside 50.
Just skid it. Yeah, that's just skid it around. It can't be any worse.
Don't let it mark it.
Yeah. And your Geelong supporter, your Geelong opponent beside him, just scream the word hamstring because then again, I'm worried they're going to get injured if they have to bend down and get the ball. And maybe they'll just let us get a couple of kicks in. It's because we've got no structure in our forward line. So and you can see that because I've never seen Richmond so consistently have quarters where we don't score anything. Literally just don't score.
Yeah.
And it's, not just quarters, I'm being kind, it's halves of football. Where we just don't score. And it's not all inaccurate kicking. On the weekend show, we just didn't even we just could not even generate a system to have a line on goal. But anyway, I'm trying to still stay positive. I'm positive with the kids. I'm enjoying I enjoyed the game on the weekend, seeing Trainor's game, you know what I mean? Seeing Ross play.
Just really kicking 2 goals.
Yeah, Elgar, he surprised me. He's a little bit bigger than what I thought he was.
He does. He plays taller. He was honestly, I thought he was taller than what he actually is because I compared him to my check and I'm well mark height-wise, but he plays taller. So
he
I like him.
Tall, and so there's always positives in a Richmond game. That's the thing that, like I said to Gaz, my mate, I'm not bitter. I'm not upset. But if we continue going this rubbish next year, and there's not, then I'll start to be a lot more vocal. Because but anyway.
Thank you, brother. Sleeping giant will awake soon. Sophie will awaken soon.
Oh yeah, we're just sleeping. We're just sleeping. We've got a bright future ahead of us. That's what the Adelaide supporters, the Cat supporters, all these ferals know. They know we do. We're in a good place,
and then we'll be awake again shortly. Yeah. We'll be up and about. But no, thank you for jumping on tonight here to catch.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for your team selection. I appreciate your insights. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And yeah, we've got Behind Friendly Lines tomorrow night, and there'll be some other videos that will come out.
Oh, that'll be fun. Who you got? You doing the Cats? Yeah.
Yeah. Got the Cats. Hang on, I'll find the correct name of the show. I don't want to get it wrong. Hang on a sec, because there's a few. They've got a few okay ones out there, to be honest. The Hoops Crew will be doing the show with tomorrow. So yeah, we'll have that come out, and then onwards and upwards for the game on the weekend. Have a wonderful night, everybody, and until next week, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.